you can address them.
Okay, very good. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we are conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. If you do not have a private attorney, we'll offer you the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. Let's see, we'll get started as soon as everyone gets on with us. Good afternoon, Ms. Allen and Mr. McLean. Mr. McLean, who's joining you this afternoon?
I am, Your Honor, Tanisha Cook.
Oh, yes. Good afternoon, Ms. Cook. Yes, I believe we're ready to begin. Who do we have?
This is Miss Walker. She is position number 14, number 14.
Hey, good afternoon, Ms. Walker. You have been charged in case 24CR007908Y with battery family violence. Good afternoon, Mr. Howard. Is there a history?
For V Walker, second arrest. Last arrest was in October for simple battery DV.
Yes, Ms. Allen. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. This defendant was in front of the court for SEA on the 10th of October. Her husband and she were both arrested for an incident that happened on the 6th of October. She was the second one that came through. Her husband, the victim in this case, is Bobby Mitchell. He came through court and was in SEA on the 7th of October. You gave him a bond, a good bond, requiring that he stay away from the location where they live until he verified that she was no longer there, because the defendant in front of you told the court she was moving back to California. You also ordered that he have no contact with her. So his case is 24CR006883H, and that's open. Mrs. Verna Walker is 24CR006973Y. Her bond order from Judge Mincy is to have no contact with her husband, Bobby Mitchell. We're here today because on the 1st of December at about 8:50 p.m. till about 11 p.m. at the home that 518 Margot Drive in South Fulton, where Mr. Bobby Mitchell returned after he appeared in court and got a bond on October the 7th. He called the police and said he'd been struck in the head and was bleeding. Police responded to the location. They spoke to the victim, Mr. Mitchell. He came out of the front door with blood covering his face and his clothing, as well as down his head from above on his head. He told the police that there was a bond order in place requiring that the defendant have no contact with him and to stay away. Police realized that the bond order, like I told you, each of them has one, and Mr. Mitchell was allowed to go back to the house once he verified she wasn't there. Mr. Mitchell said that he had not allowed her into the house, that he got home and she showed up, that she has a key, that he didn't let her in. When he told her he was going to call police, he went into his room and started watching football. She followed him in there, and when he was laying around, she approached him aggressively. He said he put his foot up to try to create space, and at that point, she sat down and she struck him on the head with a cell phone. Her daughter, Shanika, was present, told police she heard an argument. She wasn't sure who hit who. But she claimed that her mother got to the location before Mr. Mitchell. Fortunately, there was camera footage that shows Mr. Mitchell there at his home and the defendant show up a few minutes later. Police reviewed that and realized that she was in violation, that there's been violence, that we have a visible injury, and they arrested Mrs. Walker. Mr. Walker was told he needed stitches. I do not believe he has received those stitches. If you took notes on the 7th of October, you will remember that the woman in front of you testified on Zoom, spoke about how she had a arrest warrant for her, talked about how she'd lost a child, how they were working on their marriage, that, let me see. They had come from California. He was a truck driver. Did a lot of testifying about their relationship and what the intention was, and she was very clear she was going to be returning to California. So she's now in violation of that bond order, and there's been another incident of violence. These individuals don't have children. She's got an adult child and I believe some grandchildren. We spoke to Mr. Mitchell today. He reported he drives trucks. He may not be able to attend. He loves his wife. He says that they're working on their relationship with the help of their pastor. I would note that there are multiple jail calls from the defendant to her husband where she talks about how she wasn't going to go over to the house, but her pastor told her to go over there. So any bond order probably needs to include that even if your preacher or your pastor tells you to go home and work on your marriage, if a judge has ordered you to have no contact, you need to obey that order. The defendant also apologizes to the victim for striking him in the head, tells him he needs to go get bandages that are like stitches if he doesn't want to spend the money to go get stitches like he's been told. These individuals clearly don't need to be together, Your Honor. There is obviously some ongoing either trauma that they both have experienced. There's a substantial criminal history for the victim. There is a criminal history for the defendant as well. It looks like they came here, if you review our last hearing, to kind of start over again, but this is now the second time that there's violence. There's obvious visible injury. This could be an aggravated battery if it's an injury that actually requires stitches. And there has been a complete disregard for the orders of the court and what was represented to the court in October, that this lady would be moving back to California and that these folks realized they shouldn't be together, is the exact opposite of what happened. And so based on the obvious violation and the refusal to follow court orders, we're asking for a $4,000 surety bond, Your Honor. Absolutely no contact with Mr. Mitchell, to stay away from that location. If you would inquire where she's been living, that might be helpful. She never did update her address with the court after this case, and she came through initially. And no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
What type of bond did Judge Mincy give her?
It was a signature bond, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and answer
I
that
think it was a
question.
signature
I
bond.
thought it was 500 cash. Hold on, let me check. Where y'all go?
I think 1,300.
Oh, okay.
$1,000 surety bond,
Oh,
no
1,000
contact
good.
with Bobby Mitchell, dated 10/10/24, signed by Regina Mincy.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen.
And that was after Mr. Mitchell received his bond from Your Honor, stating once he had determined that she was not at the house, he could return to the house. And they were to have no contact.
Very good, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. McLeod.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My client tells me that she did it fact, returned to California. She just came back because she has a daughter, an adult daughter, who has special needs, and she had to take care of her daughter. Plus, she also tells me that there's a grandchild whom she takes care of as well. I was able to speak with Mr. Mitchell myself, and he tells me that he called the police because he just wanted the situation he thought that would come and just calm the situation down. But he tells me that because he's driving a truck, he won't be able to log into the Zoom. But he says that their spiritual advisor is working with them to get their marriage back on track, and that he does want to stay together with his wife. And she indicates the same thing to me, Your Honor. Of course, I understand that there was an order in place saying that they should have no further contact. And I myself was under the impression that my client would be moving back to California. But she tells me that she had a job in California, but after she lost that job, she had to move back to Georgia because she has nowhere else to stay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Cook or Mr. McLean, does your office still represent Mr. Mitchell? Did he make application prior to being released?
I can search, Your Honor. I would assume so since our supervisor conflicted Ms. Walker out, but I can double check.
Let's see. You can't violate a court order, especially one of my court orders. When I tell you not to do something, I expect that you're not going to do it, right? And if you do want to do it, the proper channel would be to come back before me, ask me to modify the order so that you can allow your spiritual advisor, whomever it is, to continue to help you, or if you wanted to get some type of family counseling or things like that. But you just can't violate my order. Okay, so that's something that I just won't tolerate. You got $1,000 good bond the first time. I cannot go backwards on your bond. So at this point in time, I'm going to accept the state's recommendation of a $4,000 good bond. No further contact. That means no contact whatsoever. No contact. Whether your spiritual advisor is working with you all or not, I guess he or she will have to work with you individually until such time as this order is not in place any longer, or you all work something out to where you're getting family violence intervention or something of that nature. Okay. So it'll be a $4,000 good bond, no further contact with Mr. Mitchell, stay away from the Margot Drive address, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. And given that anger management was not issued the first time, I haven't heard that it was, it's going to be 3 days of anger awareness. All right. Good luck to you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you, Ms. McLeod. We appreciate your
You're
assistance.
welcome.
And Ms. Cook, were you able to find that out for me?
Your Honor, I'm still looking since I didn't have his case number. I'm searching by the name.
Okay, no, you're fine. You're fine now. Just if you do represent him, maybe you all can reach out to him to let him know that that she's been back before us and that there is certainly no further contact for either one of them in place.
It looks like his case is in Judge Taylor's courtroom, but I don't see that an attorney from our office actually filed entry into it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cook. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Who do we have next?
Position number 12.
Is it Taiwo? How do you pronounce your last name, sir?
Yes, sir. It's Taiwo. T-A-I.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I got it right. Good afternoon, Mr. Taiwo. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007916F with theft by taking. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
24. On probation, Douglas County. Possession of a controlled substance. Obtain, procure, give inmate prohibited item without authorization. I got a 2024 probation, 2023 probations, 2 from 2022. 2022 shoplifting conviction, FTA, 2022 obstruction conviction, couple of probations from 2021. Possession of a Schedule 1 controlled substance conviction, 2021.
Okay.
Shop. That's it.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, shoplifting obstruction, 2019 conviction, 2019 disorderly conduct conviction, and a 2017 shoplifting first offender. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is actually an incident from August the 23rd. At about 8:30 in the morning, police were called to 620 Marietta Street. That is the parking lot that's owned by Star Parking Company. They reported a theft. The caller, an employee, Mr. Rosado, said that an individual, and he provided the tag number of the individual. Their car had been booted because they parked improperly, and they became frustrated while waiting for the process to go through. Had paid in cash, I believe, so they didn't do a card transaction that would be traceable. But because the Star transaction people had the information about the vehicle this person was driving, when the individual drove off after trying to remove the boot from his car, and he drove off with the boot, they filed a police report. Police investigated. They obtained camera footage from the defendant in front of you on scene, trying to remove the boot from his vehicle. An employee named Jamel Smith was present at that time and had interacted with the defendant. A 6-person lineup was created using the defendant's driver's license information, because his information is the matching the person registered to the car that was there, and he was identified as the individual who'd left with the boot. So he's charged with stealing the boot. Your Honor, we're asking, just based on the criminal history here, multiple convictions for different kinds of theft, as well as disorderly criminal damage and criminal trespass. We're asking for a $2,000 surety to stay away from 620 West Marietta Street, which is the Star parking garage, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 27 years old. He has 18 college credits, so he's passed high school graduation. 18 college credits in business management. He does have that record that was described. Your Honor, he's worked as a car mechanic. He does some of his own work and word of mouth. He's apparently pretty good at it. And he's also worked in home furnishings and is taking up welding in the future. Because this is from August 23rd, I would emphasize that apparently, well, I'll just go on to say he would like to ask the court to consider a low bond as possible on this. He will return to court. We've got good numbers and we got a good address, and he won't be skipping court. He wants to get back to work. So we'd ask the court to set as low a bond as possible, even if that includes a signature bond. But if the court's not leaning towards that, then we would ask for $1,000 surety.
All right. It'll be a $500 good bond. Stay away from the Marietta Street address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
We're gonna do position number 9, which is Johnson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007913J with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
61. He's been in custody since November 5th, from what I saw. On probation enforcing drug trafficking as of October. Got several probations, FTA, and drug history. The felony charges from the 5th of this month look like they were DWAP. That's it.
Yes, good afternoon, Ms. McConkey.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This defendant is also position 10 on the calendar, simple battery family violence. Both incidents involve the same victim, Ms. Crystal Snow. The first incident, position 9, occurred October 11th, 2023. I have the incident location as 4100 Wendell Drive in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of striking the victim in her left eye when she went to the property to retrieve her belongings. The assault was witnessed by an individual by the name of Stephanie Bell. Position 10, that incident occurred June 3rd of 2023 at the same incident location, Wendell Drive. In that case, the defendant is accused of striking the victim with multiple objects that were in the room of the residence. Yeah, it does look like, let's see, he's been in jail since November 5th of 2024. So I'm not sure why he's just now getting put on the SEA calendar. But given those facts, the state's recommendation will be for a signature bond. No further contact with Ms. Crystal Snow. Stay away from that incident location so long as the victim lives there. The warrant from October of 2023 states that she was going there to retrieve her belongings. So if he could just have a one-time police escort to ensure that the victim doesn't live there anymore. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Any objection to any of that, Mr. McLean? Your client has his hand up.
Put his hand down, Your Honor. Are we talking about 4100 Wendell, Unit 411?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my advice to my client is to not speak today. He has information that he believes he's heard, but I can't prove. And you know what they say about a lawyer who asks a question they don't know the answer to, will do a corollary to that. I'm not going to make allegations I can't prove. So we would ask the court to follow that signature bond, Your Honor.
Okay. Tell me again, the cases that he was in custody on, they are still pending, or were those dismissed?
Dropped.
Okay.
They showed DWAP from hold on, let me give you the date.
11/5.
That's when he got arrested, was 11/5. Let me see. Hold on real quick. It do say DWAP. I gotta look at the cases and see, man.
Oh, he has no other pending charges. Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Howard?
Except for these 2 charges, that's it. Everything, the
These
other
two.
3, 4, the other 6 charges were DWAP.
Okay, all right. So for each count, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Crystal Snow. He can go back to the 4100 Wendell Drive address with law enforcement to see if she's not there. If she's not there, he can stay. If she is there, he'll have to find someplace else to reside. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Okay?
Mr. McLean, very briefly, is your client interested in taking a plea deal at this time?
That would probably be inappropriate. He has heard third party that the victim may be deceased.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Johnson.
I want to say that's my address.
Okay, you can go back there, but we have to verify that she's not there first. So you can go back there and stay as long as she's not there, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good luck to you.
That's it.
Add on number 2, Ms. Lucas.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lucas. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007921C with possession and use of drug-related objects and criminal trespass. Is there a history?
Lucas, second. Last arrest was last month for theft by taking. Resident of Michigan.
Your Honor, this is an incident from the 1st of December at about 7:40 p.m. Police were called about a suspicious intoxicated person at the Valero gas station at 5022 Old National Highway. When police responded, they talked to the clerk inside, who reported that the defendant had been asked and told multiple times to leave the location over the last few days. And continued to return despite being told to leave, that she was not welcome there. Officers made contact with Mrs. Lucas. She was obviously intoxicated. She was taken into custody, and she had on her possession a cylindrical glass tube that's used to inhale controlled substances. I did also note that she has a Michigan address. We are asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, to stay away from the location and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We'd also request a social worker visit, the BHET.
I think the social worker visit geared towards ADT would probably fill the bill. Your Honor, although that is a Muskegon, Michigan address, she has moved here. She doesn't have a good mail address here yet, and it would actually be more stable in terms of her calling her relative up there and asking if she's gotten her mail or missed mail, or is there a court notice that comes through, because that's a really good mailing address. And a couple of months ago, she came to Georgia. She works in Georgia cleaning apartments. And before that, she worked for several years as Little Caesars manager. And before that, she had another responsible job. And given that this is her second arrest, she lives in the Kimberly Mills neighborhood off Flat Shoals near Old National with a friend named Greg. And she didn't have his phone number, so I couldn't. He's a contractor, so I couldn't reach him. So, unless it was overnight. So I think what she's saying to the court is, I'm a Georgian now. I will make court. I've got two good phone numbers for her. And ironically, the Michigan address would be where it would be the safest for stable mail delivery. But I can't give you her street address, what house in Kimberly Mills neighborhood she lives in. So if
the state's position would be that the defendant is not a resident of this state unless we have an address. Otherwise, she's homeless.
Right, she's in that gap. She's transitioning to being a Georgian. So, and she's been here a while, but not a long one. We'd ask for a signature bond if possible.
All right. I want to make sure that she has stable housing, Mr. McLean, and that you have a social worker visit. What I think I'd like to do is I'm going to give her a $500 good bond per charge, makes for a $1,000 good bond. Ms. Bridgewater, I don't want her to have to, if we can have a social worker visit and have Mr. McLean verify the address, I'd rather try to get her on the SAP calendar for 12/10. You think we can do that?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, so let's put her on the 12/10. Mr. McLean, you make sure that the social worker speaks to the judge at that time regarding the BHET or whatever is determined. And if necessary, the bond could be modified at that point. So it'll be a total of a $1,000 good bond. Stay away from the Old National Highway address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond, social worker visit, and placed on the SAP calendar for 12/10.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, Ms. Lucas.
ACD seeking to Ms. Perkins.
Good afternoon, Judge Morrow. This is add-on number 3.
Afternoon. And this is Ms. Perkins. Good afternoon, Ms. Perkins. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. Ms. Perkins, you've been charged in case 24 CR 007920A with theft of service. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
No.
I
That's
believe this
fine.
is her first arrest, Your Honor.
Okay.
This is an incident that occurred on October the 26th of this year at about dinner time. Location is 8390 Senoia Road in Fairburn. That is the Golden Bite restaurant. The defendant and an unknown companion parked at the location. The vehicle that the defendant was driving is registered to her. They were captured on surveillance parking and then entering the location where they ordered food and drinks of a value of $90.83 and then left the location without paying. The defendant left her Apple Watch behind. That information, as well as the information about the vehicle they are registered to her, was used to identify her by investigators, and a warrant was obtained. We're asking for $1,000 SOB through pretrial, Your Honor, to stay away from that location, the Golden Bite, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Yes, Mr. McLean.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Given that this is a first arrest, it's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. Stay away from the Golden Bite restaurant. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Protez. Okay. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge.
City's on.
Okay, we done with ACDC for this afternoon?
Yes, we're completed. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Miss Gaston, not sure of the position number.
Okay, say the name again for me.
Gaston,
Okay.
she's shown on the calendar.
Gaston?
Yes, Your
Yes,
Honor, she's not on any of our dockets, but I did see that she was booked in this morning at about 4 in the morning. I did review the case. We can absolutely address the issue of bond, but it has not been filed at this point. It would have been after the time period, I believe.
Have you spoken to her, Ms. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
Okay, you want to proceed today?
Yes, we can proceed today with bond.
Okay, so can you give me at least a number, Miss Allen, and the charge?
Sure. Miss Gaston has a booking number. Two 0863. She was arrested for battery, family violence, and cruelty in the third.
Okay. Do you have her history?
I don't.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
did.
got it. She was on the pull sheet.
Okay.
I got it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she is here. Let me before you do that, Mr. Howard, for me. Good afternoon, Miss Gaston. You've been charged in case 2242808663 with battery, family violence, and cruelty to children in the third degree. Yes, Mr. Howard.
And Your Honor, I see now that we have a case. If you'd like to give me a minute, I can go ahead and file these charges down since I've reviewed it.
Okay.
You waiting on me?
Let Miss Allen finish so that she can hear what you have to say.
All right.
Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Howard.
Ninth arrest. Last arrest was on the 1st of this month, Cobb County. Interference with government property. 2022 obstruction conviction. 2021 battery conviction. 2017 probation. That's it.
And so, Your Honor, I'm gonna file these charges down now. If you'd like to wait until we get a CR number, that's fine with me, or we can go ahead.
Well, why don't we go ahead and then when you get a CR number, you just let me know so we can get it to Miss Bridgewater.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is an incident that occurred on the 16th of November, 2024. Police were called at about 10:30 in the morning to 2725 Chattahoochee Circle in Roswell. This is the residence of the defendant's mother and stepfather, I believe, as well as a younger sibling. It was reported that she came to the location intoxicated with her 10-month-old daughter, initials XG. While XG was asleep on the couch, maybe she came to the location and XG was already there being taken care of. I'm unsure. But it says that XG, 10-month-old, was on the couch asleep. Parents had told the defendant she needed to take the child to urgent care. The child wasn't feeling well. The defendant began arguing with her mother and her sister. She then assaulted her sister. This happened in front of stepfather, mother, and a younger sibling as well. She punched and kicked her sister repeatedly. Her sister went to the floor. She then started kicking her sister. Her sister's name is Aaliyah Gaston, Aaliyah. She was kicked and punched in the face. She had marks and scratches on the right side of her face, as well as redness and swelling to her right eye. Another place in the documents we have says that the defendant lives there as well. So I'm not sure if it was temporary or what the situation is at this point, but it's been a period of time since this occurred, and a warrant was obtained on November the 16th. So I don't know if she left and didn't come back, but she left the location before police arrived, and she took her child with her. The police report indicates that the child had to be quickly removed from the couch where this assault took place in the living room because of the reckless behavior of this defendant in committing an assault there right next to where the baby was. Police saw the injuries to her sister, spoke to everyone else on the scene. I would note that in our system, in 2016, when this young lady was 18 years old, she received a null pros on a battery family violence against her mother and her stepfather after she completed 8 weeks of anger management and did 20 hours of community service. Since then, you heard that she has been convicted of battery and obstruction, and she was just arrested last month. In that 2016 case, she repeatedly punched her mother and bit her on the leg, and then repeatedly struck and punched her stepfather. She was also intoxicated for that incident as well. So based on the facts of the prior with the same victims, the conviction that you just heard about, and the reckless behavior here, in addition to the substance abuse issue that seems to be ongoing, we're asking for a $3,000 surety. That's $1,000 on each of the 3 charges that I'm about to file: cruelty in the 3rd degree, battery, family violence, and reckless conduct. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Stay away from that location, 2725 Chattahoochee Circle in Roswell. And no contact with Aaliyah Gaston and her mom, who is Mrs. Brandy Gaston, and stepfather Donald McCraney, McCraney, also the listed victims in the 2016 case.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
for an eval if that hasn't already been addressed. I think I didn't see it was addressed in the last case, but just because substances seem to be involved in both, we'd ask for an evaluation and follow any recommendations.
Okay, Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gatson is 27 years old. She's been in Georgia for the last 10 years. She's a high school graduate. Hopefully she's still employed at Trinity Security Services. As it relates to this incident, she is maintaining that she's innocent. I don't know where the echo is coming from. I do apologize. And of course, we're just here to address bond. Nevertheless, I do believe she was residing at the address. However, I did speak to her about an alternate address, and she does have another address in which she can reside in Jonesboro, Georgia. She is actually, is my understanding, she is currently pregnant, I believe 5 weeks, possibly pregnant. And her daughter is very soon going to be turning 1 year old. We are asking the court, it's her position, even though we don't necessarily want to get into the facts, that her sister is actually the one who attacked her. And then when she was advised that her stepdad actually told her to go ahead and take her child and leave the premises. And that's why she was not there to tell her version of the story when the police arrived. She has no issues with not having contact with her younger sister. We didn't discuss the parents as they're not necessarily complaining witnesses to the situation. So I'm not sure. But if the judge does say that, Ms. Gaston, you can't have contact with mom and stepfather as well. But we will be asking the court to give her a signature bond. She does have ties to the area. Like I said, she's been here for more than 10 years. She has one child currently and then one on the way. Jail is definitely not the place for her in her current medical state. She needs to get proper care with her newborn child. As it relates to her most recent situation, the way in which she was picked up, I believe her car broke down in Cobb County. And because I don't represent her, not necessarily get into the facts, but her child was with her and there was some discussion back and forth and the officer wasn't listening to her. She was just trying to get them to listen to her about her child's whereabouts, and it resulted in additional charges. So, Your Honor, she didn't say that she has any issues with substance abuse, so we would object to any sort of substance abuse evaluation at this particular time. We can obviously revisit that later down, but for purposes of bond, having a no contact provision and making sure that she's going to come back to court, we feel that a signature bond will still do that in this particular case.
Ms. Allen, did you talk to the mother and the stepfather, your office?
I have not been able to reach out to them yet today, or haven't been successful yet, but that's something I will continue to do. This young lady's 27 years old. You just heard that she's got somewhere else to go. We would argue that the fact that she's 5 weeks pregnant makes it even more important that she gets some kind of evaluation, but obviously we'll leave that in your discretion, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. It's going to be a $500 good bond per charge, makes for a total of a $1,500 good bond. No further contact with her sister, Aaliyah Gaston, and since her sister apparently stays at the Chattahoochee Circle address, she's not to go back to that address. I'm not going to keep her from having conversations with her mother and her father. So I won't impose, it'll just be a no further violent contact with Donald McCrary. And did you have the mother's name? I'm sorry, Miss Allen.
No problem. Mom is Brandy Gaston, Brandy.
Okay.
And
No further violent contact with Brandy and Gaston and Mr. Donald McCrary, I believe.
thank you. Yes.
No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. All right. Good luck to you, Miss Gaston.
Position number 2, Brooke. You've been courtroom.
Courtroom 1 right here. Is that what you told me?
Yes,
Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
Mr. Brooks?
I'm sorry, we still need to talk to Ms. Cook. We were trying to call her, but we didn't get her.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
next is number 15, Mr. Andre Webb.
Good afternoon, Mr. Webb. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007915G with criminal trespass and damage to property, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, and simple assault family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
2018 suspended license, 2018 criminal damage to property, 2017 marijuana possession conviction, 2013 probation, 2013 simple battery DV dead docket, 2012 obstruction conviction. There's a probation hold. I think it's one of them state court judges. I'm not sure. I have to look it up.
Yes, Miss Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 29th of November at about 3 p.m. Police were called to the house where this defendant lives with his wife and 28-year-old stepdaughter. His 28-year-old stepdaughter is the named victim in this case. Her name is Kiara Bass, Kiara. Incident location is 2181 Ellinwood, ELINWOOD Drive, and that's in East Point. On the scene, police spoke first to the defendant's wife. Her name is Daphne, also last name Webb. She told police that her daughter and her husband had argued. Police spoke to the victim, who said that the defendant was intoxicated and had argued with her. She'd gone to her bedroom and closed the door. He followed and began screaming and cursing at her while banging on the door, eventually punching a hole in the door, damaging the door, breaking it. There was blood on the door, blood on the hands of the defendant and his elbow, and multiple open and empty as well as full alcoholic beverages all over the house. The defendant barricaded himself inside the location. His wife gave them the keys and allowed them to go in, and they pushed the door open. He refused verbal commands to put his hands behind his back. He balled up his fists and took a fighting stance with police until they told him they were going to tase him if he didn't stop, at which point he stopped. The defendant was obviously intoxicated. He said he was being disrespected by his stepdaughter and that he fucked up the door because he can't hit her. Your Honor, we would ask for a $2,000 SOB. There are 3 charges here. We'd ask for $1,000 on the simple assault and criminal damage, split up that way at least, or the most amount on those 2 charges. I'm sorry, math is hard. We'd ask for no contact, to stay away from the incident location, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. There are 3 charges: criminal damage, simple assault, or I think disorderly simple assault, actually, and obstruction. So we'd ask for a $2,000 total bond, Your Honor, and we'd like for it to be a surety based on the priors. And I'll look and see if there's a hold for him.
Okay. Mr. McLean?
That probation case appears to be 19 CR 006-776F. That's what was showing on my computer. So I don't know if they've actually put that on the booking screen as a hold or not. Your Honor, he is 50 years old. My client is Mr. Webb is 50. He's got he went to the 11th grade. He has worked jobs last few months. He's been working for Unify, which is an old national highway. They distribute food to certain corporations. He has worked through temporary agencies. For a year or 2, he worked for 84 Lumber through one of those jobs. So he is industrious and works hard. I realize the arrest history is what it is, but his grandmother, his father are all local. So he's got plenty of family to help him keep up with court, not miss it. His address is correct. I've got his phone number. And we would ask the court to consider a signature bond if that's possible.
All right. For the criminal trespass, a $500 good bond. For the obstruction, a $500 good bond. For the simple assault, a $1,000 good bond. Makes for a total of a $2,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Bass. Stay away from the Ellenwood Drive address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Webb. And Ms. Allen, when you get a chance, if you haven't already done it, would you chat the Gaston things to Ms. numbers to Ms. Bridgewater when you get those so she has them, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Add on position number 4.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bussey. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007905A with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
You said add-on number what?
I think it's position number 4, Bussy.
Add-on, this is the
Oh,
add-on.
That's Caleb.
okay. I'm sorry, this is add-on, which one? We've got,
Number 4, Caleb Roran?
Ron,
okay.
Run? Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Roan. I apologize. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007919G with criminal trespass and damage to property, family violence, and disorderly conduct. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
No.
Okay.
Your Honor,
yes,
this is,
Ms.
I think, the
Hamilton.
defendant's first arrest based on my review as well. So police were called on the 2nd of December at about 3:20 in the afternoon to the address 485 St. Regis Drive. That's in Johns Creek. It's reported that the defendant became angry after a conversation with his parents, who are here on the Zoom with us, Wanda and Leland Roan. He charged at their bedroom door where they were inside, using his shoulders to force it open and damage the door frame while he was yelling and cursing. The charges in front of you today are criminal trespass, damage, and disorderly behavior conduct. We have been in touch with the parents today. This young man is 20 years old, I believe. They report ongoing issues with anger and disrespect living in their home. They had told him he was being inconsiderate and he needed to go to his room. He continued to escalate. They reported that they have some concerns about drug use, and think he needs some therapy. They're requesting no violent contact, although they did report that they had originally started the process to evict this young man. They would like him to return home. We're asking for an SOB, Your Honor, through pretrial, BHET, and an MHET. We'd ask that he have no drugs, alcohol, or weapons unless they're prescribed, and no violent contact with his parents, Wanda and Leland Roan, Roane. And if you'd sound for them.
Okay, I see you there, Mr. and Ms. Roan. If you would like to address the court, I'll need for you to unmute yourself and I'll have to swear you in.
Well, I only have questions at this point.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, Mr. Roan. I might have some questions for you, so if you raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. We can both lower your hands. Okay, I'll answer your questions, but I want you to tell me a little about Caleb right now. He lives in your home, is that right?
Yes, Caleb lives in our home.
Okay, and do you want him to continue to live in your home?
Well, he has nowhere else to go. I mean, right now, and there's no place, he's 20 years old. He's got no place to go. I love my son just like any other parent. And the violence, the drug use, the unimaginable thought of police walking in my door telling me that they could smell marijuana in my house. I don't know, maybe I've gotten used to it, I don't know, but that's a horrible thing. I can't imagine anyone walking in the house and smelling marijuana. And so there needs to be some drug consequences, some drug treatment, drug court. The marijuana use has affected him. I think he has a diagnosis of bipolar 1 with marijuana-induced psychosis. And when he's not smoking marijuana, the psychosis is not there. He may have some depression, he may have some bipolar problems, but the smoking of marijuana, the long-term effect is escalated arguing into violence, and then finally escalated to the point that he, comes through the bedroom, a locked bedroom door, and breaks the frame of the door in a very violent manner.
Okay, and this isn't the first time that something of this nature has happened?
Well, yeah, it's the first time he's damaged anything, you know, like a door frame or door. He's damaged things like a painting in his room, on the wall. It was actually a photograph, frame photograph, large photograph on his wall. He's put holes in the wall in the room and slammed things around. But this is the first time he's ever, at this level of violence where he actually breaks into my door that's locked as I'm trying to tell him, go to your room. This thing is escalating. Go calm down, and let's maybe talk about it later. But this time it was to no avail. And we've called police 3 or 4 times because his violence has escalated to the point of his arguing has escalated to the point that I couldn't control him and needed to call the police. And when the police show up, he settles down and follows instructions. But needless to say, it's been a difficult period. And the only thing I think that's going to help is counseling. I mean, we're willing to get family counseling as well as, make sure that he gets the drug counseling that he needs and then, but he needs some type of orders from the court, some parameters in which he can function. And so he doesn't need violence at home, and we don't need drug use in our house. And he doesn't need drug use because it's detrimental to his health and his life. And he doesn't understand that.
And it's illegal.
And it's yes.
Okay. Is he in school? Is he working? What does he do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, he hadn't done anything until recently. He got a job at a cafe up in Roswell, but he went to work one day there, which would have been December 1st, I think. It's been difficult. I think he just needs some counseling so he can just figure out what he wants to do and who he is.
Yes, ma'am.
So he also did have an apprenticeship. They're tattooing at one point, and he's been trying to figure out his life. And he has been everything that my husband just described is true. We were planning to have a meeting with Caleb to go over things that we needed him to do to so that we can live harmoniously in the house. And we had explained that to him. The addiction was only if he could things kept escalating and he couldn't do the things that we wanted him to do. However, we have not been able to finish that conversation because the first thing on our list was that we wanted him to get counseling, which he was upset about. So it's really not our desire to have him evicted, but we don't want violence to escalate. So that was prior to this last incident. We really want him to get counseling. We want to participate in that as well. We want him to stop the anger behavior, which he needs some help with that. And to be able to go to his room or to know how to de-escalate himself. But I do believe the primary issue is, though he doesn't agree, is that the marijuana smoking has really impacted his life. He's a smart young man. He did do some time in college at San Diego State University. He has capabilities and we love him with all our heart, but we know that we can't, this kind of thing is not good.
Okay. I appreciate you all being here. I also just want to let you know that this is just a bond hearing today. And your son is innocent until proven guilty. My job today is to protect the alleged victims as much as I possibly can, and sometimes regardless of what the victims want. So, but I do appreciate you being here this afternoon. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Mr. McLean.
Your Honor, of course, my Mr. Rowan is 20. Your Honor's basically heard about his education and first arrest he was serving food for a day at that cafe. And he's so young, there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of accomplishments and that sort of thing yet, but a signature bond would be appropriate and appropriate conditions with that we would have no objection to.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. and Ms. Brown, I think what I can do, I'm concerned about him returning to your household without what you're telling me is having some type of counseling or some type of alcohol and drug evaluation. So I can order that as a part of his bond. But I'm only going to let him return to the St. Regis Drive address if he enrolls in some type of counseling and has a drug evaluation um, while he's on bond. So it'll be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial for each count, makes for a total of a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. You will have to, given that he's 20 years old, you're going to have to come and sign for his pretrial bond. So I take it that Mr. Leland Rowan, are you going to do that?
Well, yes, Your Honor. Yes, I can definitely do that.
Okay. Would you have any problems with him being in counseling and the ADET?
Exactly what does that mean?
It's alcohol drug evaluation
Right.
that he'd have to undergo while he's out on pretrial
Okay.
services release. Okay.
Okay. So how do we accomplish those things? I guess.
He'll be able to work with pretrial as far as that goes. Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
so do we do that today?
No, that'll be down the road.
Okay. So
Okay.
what is his disposition at this point?
So I'm going to let him out on a signature bond. So you all are not going to have to pay anything to get him out, but you will have to sign to get him out. I'm going to send him through what we call pretrial services. So he'll have to check in with pretrial services from time to time. He's going to have to, while he's out on bond, go through counseling and an ADET and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Okay, you can speak with Mr. McLean as his attorney. You can speak with him more in depth about those things if you choose to. Mr. McLean, if you would provide them with your contact information.
Yes, Your Honor, that in the chat.
Okay. All right.
One more question now. So do I need to come today and pick him up or?
No, you'll need to, he may not be released until later today or tomorrow. So you'll need to call down to the jail to find the time that he'll be released.
Okay.
Well, he got a
Okay.
cosign first.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll do
So,
that.
Okay.
Don't we have to come to the,
McLean to send him the link.
okay, you send me the link and we can take care of that. Yeah, I just need to know the process. I'm sorry. I just don't know.
yeah, that's why I'm going to put you in touch with Mr. McLean so that he can continue to assist you.
All right, Judge. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're more than welcome. Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
See you in the chat.
Okay. Who do we have next?
We can go back to courtroom 1, Mr. Brooks, which is position number 2.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brooks. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the state court expedited accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007904G with public drunk. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Third. Got an open trespass in state court. It's 24 CR 005 485G. 2019 battery DV dismissed.
Ms. Cocky?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 1789 Washington Road in East Point. The defendant is accused of being drunk in public. He was loitering with 2 other individuals when officers told them all to disperse. The defendant was unable to stand up and walk away. He had 2 bottles of Smirnoff vodka. He was using unbecoming language and his speech was slurred. That open criminal trespass case that he has, he was given an SOB jail by you on August 6, 2024. So given that he does have an open case, which he was previously given a signature bond on, the state's recommendation is going to be for a $500 surety bond, that he stay away from that incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Yes, Ms. Cook.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Brooks is 49 years old. He mentioned to me that he's currently residentially challenged. He says that his highest level of education is some college. He denies the allegations against him. I will say, in speaking with him, unless he's still intoxicated, his normal pattern of speech is maybe slower than most people. He does say that he employed or has some employment at staff zones. However, he can't afford any bond. So essentially any monetary bond would be the equivalent of a no bond for him. He's been in Georgia for the last 13 years. So we would be asking the court to give him another signature bond if possible, or if not, then a very nominal amount cash bond to the amount of $10 or less.
Ms. Makaki, do you have the case number for the open trespass case?
24 CR 005485G.
Ms. Bridgewater, did you get that?
Will you repeat that, please?
Yes, 24 CR
Mm-hmm.
005485G.
Yes,
85G.
got it. Thank you.
Ms. Bridgewater, I'd like for both these cases to be put on the December 17th SAP calendar.
Okay.
Ms. Cook, I think something's going on with Mr. Brooks, so I'd like him to have a social worker visit to assist with housing or anything else that he needs assistance with. I'll be the judge at that SAP calendar, and if you'll have the PD at that time report to me the findings, I'll either revisit the bond or see him at that time. So at this time, it's going to be a $500 good bond. Stay away from the Washington Road address, a social worker visit, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. All right.
Yes, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to you, Mr. Brooks.
Position number 1, Mr. David Bloodworth.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bloodworth. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007903C with theft by taking and loitering and prowling. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
11/2020 possession of a controlled substance. 2020 FTA. 2018 theft by taking conviction. I think he's homeless.
Hey, Ms. McConkey.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 45 Boynton Avenue.
I'm
South.
sorry. Okay. I apologize, Ms. McConkey. They've taken him off the video screen. Go ahead.
Okay.
There was somebody being inappropriate in my court, so they handled it for me before I had to. So go ahead.
Gotcha. No problem, Your Honor. I have that the incident location is 45 Boynton Avenue Southeast in Atlanta. That is the Sailor at Southside Trail Luxury Townhomes. The victim in this case is Carlisha Good. The defendant is accused of stealing the victim's package, opening the package, and putting the victim's Atlanta Falcons jacket, which was one of the items in the package, on his body. The victim told officers that she didn't know the defendant and she did not give him permission to remove her package. Upon the defendant seeing the security officers to the building, he immediately ran away. The defendant had no reason to be in the building's lounge area where he was found, as it is a secure area that requires an access code, and it does not appear that the defendant lives there. Our office has had a chance to speak with Ms. Good, who states that the police were able to return her items, but the defendant had already warned them, so she doesn't want them anymore. She did state that she wants no further contact and for the defendant to stay away. If pretrial will take him, given the facts that he's residentially challenged, we would be okay with a signature bond. If not, then we would ask for a $500 surety bond on each count. Stay away from that incident location. No further contact with Carlisha Good. no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Carlisha Good.
If Ms. Good is online, wishes to address the court now, to do so. Does not appear so. Ms. Cook?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Bloodworth is 43 years old. He is residentially challenged. However, he's lived in Georgia all his life and has been that way, is my understanding, for the last 7 to 8 years. He's a high school graduate. He is employed at Cook Chop. He's been working there, is my understanding, for the last 4 to 5 years. Essentially, though, any amount of bond would be the equivalent of no bond. So we would ask the court to grant the signature bond through pretrial services at this particular time.
Does he have any type of mailing address or anything of that nature, Ms. Cook?
When I spoke to him, I didn't get an address.
Okay. And are you also telling me that even a $10 good bond is something that he couldn't make?
It's my understanding that he cannot.
Oh, so this will be per judge. It will be a $100 SOB through pretrial level 1 per charge, makes for a total of a $200 SOB through pretrial level 1 per judge. No further contact with Ms. Good. Stay away from the incident location. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Bloodworth.
So let me ask you, how are we gonna be able to track him? Because if he don't show up, they gotta mail out a notice. Where they gonna mail it to?
Look, if you can try to find someplace that he can receive some mail. I don't want the man sitting in jail simply because he is residentially challenged and simply because he doesn't have $10. So I'm not going to have him sit in jail. So
He can't go through the jail?
It's restricted. Okay, so I've got my hands tied there too. All right, so Ms. Cook, do your best to find some type of mailing address for Mr. Bloodworth, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Who do we have next?
Position 3, Emmanuel Brown.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007906J with battery and criminal trespass. Is there a history?
6 on probation for ag assault, theft by receiving. On probation for theft by taking 2 counts of simple battery. That's it.
Mr. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred October 14th, 2020. The victim in this case is Nikos Harvey. The incident location is 1056 Hank Aaron Street, Southwest Atlanta. The defendant and the victim were driving when the defendant took the victim's keys and left. Because the victim's car is a push-to-start vehicle, the victim was able to continue driving his vehicle until he reached his residence. The defendant eventually showed up at the victim's residence with the victim's key, and they began arguing in the parking lot. The defendant then punched the victim in the face, causing a laceration above the victim's eye, and also punched the victim's car window, causing damage. Our office has had a chance to speak with Mr. Harvey, who states he and the defendant are friends and they had been living together for about 3 weeks. He states that his car window is shattered, and he states that the defendant has been in contact with him since this incident. He's still the same and he's still being abusive. He says the defendant has come to his home unannounced. He would like the defendant to receive some MH treatment as well as some anger management. And he, of course, wants to stay away and no further contact. The state's recommendation is going to—
I didn't say that.
Our victim advocate has—
Wait. We don't do that in this court, okay? You just don't interrupt someone that's talking.
Sorry about that.
Regardless of, it's not appropriate. I won't have it, okay? You've seen how this court is run. I call on people in turn. I will give you as much time as anyone else, but we do not interrupt other people while they're talking. I apologize, Ms. McConkey. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I stated, our victim advocate has in her notes that the victim stated that he wants no further contact and a stay away. The state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond on the battery, a $1,000 surety bond on the criminal trespass, no further contact with the victim, Nikos Harvey, particularly given that he told our victim advocate that the defendant has continued to contact him and is still being abusive and is showing up to his home unannounced. We would ask for a stay away, of course, that the defendant undergo some anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. There is also a concern that he will reoffend, particularly given the fact that he's currently on probation for a violent crime.
Okay. Was that Nico Harvey that was on the line?
I believe so, Your Honor. So I would ask that we sound for him.
Yes, it was. I am, sir.
Okay, Mr. Harvey, if you would like to address the court, I'm happy to give you that opportunity. You'll have to activate your camera for me.
Okay.
Okay, raise your right
Yes,
hand.
sir.
Raise your right hand for me. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. What would you like to tell the court, Mr. Harvey?
Well, the situation happened and I can't do nothing about the situation that happened, but I didn't really request for it to be a stay away because this is where he stayed. And I don't know how it became a criminal trespassing because this is where he stayed. And he's not really a bad person for real, and he just needs some anger management problems or whatever like that. But the main thing is that he was looking for a job. He got a job, and this situation happened 2 months ago, and we're now 2 months into a new month. We're going to a new year, and he has a job. So he got a job right before he got in here, in there. So I don't want him to lose his job, and he's more than welcome. But we've been past the situation, but I couldn't help that I had to take out the charges. But that's all I could say. I had to take out the charges because it was just crazy at that time. But it's better. We don't really argue. He got his job. He's doing what he need to do he do what I asked him he need to do now at this point by working. And that's all I can ask for him to do is do his part on the rent, do his part on the bills. That's all I was looking forward to.
Okay, so the incident location is where both you and Mr. Brown are residing?
You said what, sir?
The incident location, both you and Mr. Brown reside there?
Yes.
Okay, and back on October 14th, you found it necessary to call the police because of what was going on with Mr. Brown?
I did find it necessary, yeah.
Okay, and he wasn't arrested at did the officers come at that time?
The officers came, they didn't come to arrest him. They came like 2 months later, which was like yesterday, I believe.
They didn't come on when you called them on the date of
They came out there
October
when I made
14th?
the police report.
Okay.
Yes, they came.
And where was Mr. Brown at that time?
He had left. He went to a neighbor's house and was talking to the neighbors.
Okay, so they didn't arrest him at that time, and you allowed him to come back into the household, and it's been fine ever since then.
No, he didn't come. He didn't come back. He didn't come back directly that day or anything like that. He didn't come back until like 3 or 4 days later. He didn't want to come back until I was cooled down and calmed down from the situation because my eye was black. So I didn't really calm down from the situation until like a week later or two when my eye started to heal. That's when I let him come back. Well, that's when he came back to the house.
Okay, so he came back to the house, and since that time, there's been no problems.
No problem at all.
Okay, had there been any problems prior to that time?
Well, we had an incident, but it wasn't really a problem. It's just that he just didn't have a job yet, and I needed him to have a job to help with the rent. So that was the only thing I was having a problem, small indication with that.
Okay, and now he has a job?
Yeah, he got a job now.
Okay. All right. Thank you for
Can
being
I
here.
ask Mr. Harvey just
Yes.
to clarify? Do you remember speaking to someone from our office earlier today?
Yeah, I do.
And didn't you tell that individual that the defendant is still the same and he's still abusive?
No,
Okay. Do you remember telling the person you spoke to from our office that the defendant has come to your home unannounced?
I said he came to my house, but that was in October. I was talking about this situation in October.
Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here, sir. Yes.
Yeah,
Ms.
if I
Cook.
may, can I ask, what is
Yes.
the relationship with Mr. Brown? Are you related, like brothers, or are you just friends?
We're brothers.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Your Honor, Mr. Brown is 28 years old. It's my understanding now that it was my understanding from Mr. Brown that they were brothers. I just wanted to clarify because the affidavit or the arrest warrant says they were just friends. He has graduated high school. It's my understanding Brown actually has a DoorDash here and he previously warehouse. This incident did occur some time ago, so there has been a significant cooling off period, as you've heard by the testimony of Mr. Harvey. There has not been any further incidents, and I'm assuming they've been able to move on without any violence. So we would be asking the court for a signature bond. Based on my conversation with Mr. Brown, despite what pretrial says, I believe that his probation may be non-reporting or something because he says that he's no longer on the felony probation. Just wanted to put that out there. Not sure because he asked me to. Additionally, he does take care of, it's my understanding that he and Mr. Harvey are related on his father's side, but Mr. Brown's mom is sick and has medical issues and does rely on Mr. Brown sometimes for additional care. Additionally, Mr. Brown's sister recently had a baby and he intends to assist her with taking care of that child. So we are asking the court to allow Mr. Brown to be given some sort of signature bond. And if the court feels necessary, other conditions to include no further violent or harassing contact with Mr. Harvey, I think that would be sufficient since Mr. Harvey said that he had not being around him, doesn't mind him coming back at the location. Additionally, should the court want to keep him away from the incident location, it's also my understanding that Mr. Brown does have another brother who lives in Marietta where he can also reside. Nothing.
And I just want to point out real quick, in the police report, it states that Mr. Harvey told officers that he just met Mr. Brown on October 10th of 2024. And that's the first time that they met. So maybe they were just long lost brothers.
That goes to my point, Your Honor, that there seems to be some inconsistencies in the story given by Mr. Harvey, which again, this is not the point where we're disputing the facts. That would be for trial. Right now, we're just trying to determine whether or not Mr. Brown is a risk to himself or others, and if he's going to show up for court, which I do believe he is going to show up for court. And I do believe that the no further violent or harassing contact with Mr. Harvey would be sufficient condition in this particular matter.
All right. For each charge, it's going to be $100 good bond, makes for a total of a $200 good bond. No further violent contact with Mr. Harvey, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Brown.
Next is number 6, Henderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Henderson. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007910G with battery family violence. Is there a history?
Third arrest, got DUI, suspended license, that's open. That's it.
Yes, Ms. McConkey.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident I have occurred November 27, 2024 at 100 Granada Lane in South Fulton. The victim in this case is Jade Burns, who shares a child with the defendant. The defendant is accused of coming to the victim's house while he was drunk and slapping her in the face because he thought the victim had another man in the house. Officers did observe bruising and swelling under the victim's eye as a result of the assault, and the victim showed officers video footage of the defendant telling her that he was sorry. Our office has spoken with Ms. Burns, who states that she has changed her number and does not want to see the defendant. She is planning on getting a TPO, that she no longer wants to deal with him and wants to stay away and no further contact. The recommendation given his criminal history is a signature bond, that he have no further contact with this victim, that he stay away from the incident location, that he undergo some anger awareness, and of course have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask you to sound for the victim in this case, Ms. Jade Burns.
Ms. Burns is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Ms. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. We have no objection to the signature bond. The only thing we would, and no, he has no issues with no further contact with Ms. Burns. They do share a 1-year-old child together, so we would want to allow for third-party transfer of the child, because he does still want to be involved in the child's life. That will be our only request.
Okay.
Do you know if the child has been legitimated, PT Cook?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, well, if the child hasn't been legitimated, then we would ask that third-party transfer be left off the table. And if the child has been legitimated, there's probably a parenting plan in place, so they could follow that.
I just want to reiterate that the child is not a victim to this particular matter. It's solely Ms. Burns.
If he or she hasn't been legitimated, then he technically doesn't have any legal rights to the child. And so I would just leave any transfer in the victim's. If she is comfortable with that, then I would leave that in her hands, but I would ask that it be kept out of the order.
Okay. For this child, he's been raised a child, so we have or transfer through a third party. $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2, 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Ms. Burns, stay away from the incident location, third-party transfer of any minor children for visitation, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Mr. Henderson, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Quite often people want to say something and it's to their detriment. Ms. Cook, I'm sure, would advise you that she can talk to you after court if you have some questions that you need answering, but you might not want to ask a question or have a comment on this form because it might not be good for you going down the line. You understand me? All right, Mr. Henderson, I've given you a signature bond, okay? Good luck to you, sir.
Judge Morrow, repeat the bond amount, please.
$3,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Thank you. Next
You're
person,
welcome.
number 8, Mr. Hutchins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hutchins. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007912B with affray and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
11. Got an open theft by taking trespass in Superior Court with Georgia Tech. Open obstruction, 2 counts. Open sale of marijuana, possession of a Schedule 1. Possession of drug-related objects, obstruction. That's 24 PI 002908. On probation in Clayton County for speeding. 2024 probation. 2023 trespass, theft by taking damage conviction.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred at the 5 Points MARTA station. Officers observed the defendant entering and exiting the fare gates of the MARTA station with 2 other males. Soon after exiting the station, the defendant was observed fighting with 2 individuals in the middle of the street in front of the station, all while having a permanent ban from MARTA. The state's recommendation is going to be based on the defendant's criminal history and open cases, as well as his convictions. It looks like all of his arrest cycles have occurred in the past 3 years, so there is a risk that he will reoffend. We are asking for a $500 surety bond on the affray, a $500 surety bond on the criminal trespass, that he continue to stay away from all MARTA locations in compliance with his permanent ban, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Okay, Ms. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hutchins is 22 years old. He's lived in Atlanta all of his life. He's a high school graduate with some college. It's my understanding that he actually does have a daughter on the way. She's due January 26th. He's working temp jobs. Despite his criminal history, Your Honor, what you didn't hear was that he has no failure to appear, so he does show up for court. So we would be asking the court for a signature bond on this case because his income is very limited. Although we don't necessarily get into the facts of this case, it's my understanding that Mr. Hutchins was actually trying to get away from some people who meant to do him harm. It's also my understanding that there was a gun involved in this situation from one of the people who were fighting him, and that the police were aware of that they tried to chase him. However, that person got away and was never arrested. He's asserting that he was acting in self-defense as it relates to this incident, Your Honor, and intends to fight this at trial. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, we are asking for a signature bond at this particular time.
He has a 2022 FTA.
For each charge, it'll be $100 good bond, makes for a total of a $200 good bond. Stay away from MARTA, given the band. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Hutchins.
But position. Position number 4, Mr. Busby.
Good afternoon, Mr. Busby. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007905A with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. Is your history, Mr. Howard?
13, 2023 battery. He got a bench warrant out of Roth. 2014 possession of marijuana, 08 FTA.
McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred at Capitol Avenue, Memorial Drive in Atlanta. The defendant was observed sitting on a wall that was part of state property at 100 Capitol Place near the intersection of Capitol Avenue and Memorial Drive. He had several items of trash around him. Officers approached him in order to give him a criminal trespass warning, and upon running his GCIC, it was discovered that he had a warrant out for his arrest in Fulton County. When officers tried to detain him, he tensed up his arms and refused to put his hands behind his back. It took several officers to gain control of the defendant and eventually place him in custody. The state's recommendation is a $500 surety bond. Stay away from the incident location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol.
Your Honor, Mr. Bussey is 41 years old. He's been in Georgia all his life. It's my understanding he's a high school graduate from Carver High School. He does have a mental health diagnosis, Your Honor, which is probably related to the facts as they related to him, the allegations here. However, he does not have any finances to be able to afford any bond. So for that reason, Your Honor, we're asking the court to give him a signature bond.
He's got that bench warrant out of Judge Ross court that he's going to have to deal with. It's going to be a $100 good bond. Stay away from the incident location. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Bussey. Also, a social worker visit. Ms. Cook, please. Thank you. Who do we have next?
We can go to Union City. This position number, position number 5 on the add-on position calendar, LaRon Walker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walker. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their services. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007907F with willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
31. On probation out of Clayton County, theft by receiving. Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon or felony first offender. Suspended license, giving false name, possession of marijuana. He got a 2022 FTA. He been in custody since 2023.
Okay.
Your Honor,
We talked-
this is an obstruction from July of 2023. A warrant was obtained. He is alleged to have fled from a transport vehicle on Grady grounds while being transported by the Fulton County Sheriff. This defendant just pled or was found guilty in a Superior Court case on the 2nd, so yesterday. He'll be serving 50 years, serving 15 up front, and the remainder on probation. So the offer in this case, he's been in custody since May the 17th. This incident alleged to occur July the 26th of 23, so over a year since that incident. This is an offer. We're offering a time-served plea, Your Honor, so that this gentleman can go ahead and go to the Department of Corrections. I've conveyed that offer to Mr. McLean.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, we have no problem with that. I've got to dig around and find my old SAP forms and work up a plea check mark type sheet, unless y'all have one you want to send to me. But we could do a plea to time served on that today and get it out of the way.
Okay. Do you want to
Yeah.
go ahead and can someone get Mr. McLean the paperwork?
Mr. McLean, this is Ms. Lewis. I'll email you the paperwork.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Ms. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And if you
Okay,
want, if you
so,
want to email to me as well, I'll keep them for if it comes up again.
Sure. Thank you.
all right, so we'll be back with you, Mr. Walker. Who do we have in courtroom 2?
Position number 5, Mr. Cedric Hand.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hand. You've been charged in case 24 CR 007909G with battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Uh, 2021 marijuana possession, no law. Second arrest.
Yes, Ms. McCarthy.
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred in February of 2024. I have the incident location as 2400 Campbellton Road in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Zaria Sermons. The defendant is accused of striking the victim multiple times, causing a knot to form on her head after he confronted her about text messages that made him believe she was cheating on him. Per the warrant, the parties had had a previous incident from November 6th of 2023 in which the police were called because the defendant had attacked the victim once again, leaving abrasions on her hand and forehead. Given his limited criminal history, we would be okay with a signature bond, no further contact with the victim, Zaria Sermons, stay away from that incident location. We would ask that he undergo some anger awareness, given that this is not the first time that he has been violent towards this victim. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for the victim, Ms. Zaria Sermons.
Ms. Sermons is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Ms. Cook?
Your Honor, we have no objections to the signature bond.
Okay. It'll be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Ms. Sermons. Stay away from the Campbellton Road address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Hand.
Position 7, Hester.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hester. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007911Y with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Yeah, what was the last bond? For the last gentleman?
$3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
All right. Hester, second arrest, 2024 shoplifting. He's homeless and wanted out of the cab counter.
McConkey?
This incident occurred on the 2nd. I have the incident location as 2420 Piedmont Road, Atlanta. Officers observed the defendant sitting on the MARTA train and made contact with him as they knew he was wanted by Atlanta PD. As officers tried to detain him, he refused to put his hands behind his back and wrapped his body around the pole, resisting arrest. Officers were finally able to detain him, but he continued to resist even as they were escorting him into the precinct. The state's recommendation would be for a very low surety bond, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Ms. Cook?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Hester is 32 years old. Judge, I don't know how I want to say this. I have some concerns regarding his mental state. But financially, as it relates to bond amount, in any amount will be the equivalent of no bond for him. And as it relates to this particular obstruction, although we don't get into the facts, it would be interesting to know because it's very vague as to how they knew that Mr. Hester was actually wanted. There was no details or anything given. Nevertheless, Judge, it is only his second arrest. He apparently is wanted out of the cab. So we would be asking for you to give him something that allows him to go to the cab to take care of his pending matter there. So he's just not sitting here.
Okay. So why don't we do this, Ms. Cook? If you can have a social worker visit with him. And I think what you're trying to say is that you might have some issues as far as competency goes.
Possibly.
Okay. And if there are any issues, then I'll need to know that at the SAP calendar so that we can put him on the right track. At this point in time, it will be a $100 good bond, a social worker visit, and I'll see him back on the SAP calendar. Obviously, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Okay. And if you would route this through somebody in your office so that they can take a look at that for us. And I thought that I saw Kasha, would you take a look at this one for us, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Hester. Who do we have next?
This is add-on position number 1, Mr. Jason Lane. I'm gonna get him there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lane. You have been charged in case 24 CR 007922E with battery family violence and simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Third arrest. Last was 03 battery hindering, dismissed. 95 terrorist threats, dismissed.
Okay, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from yesterday at about 3:20 in the morning, or actually today, 3:20 in the morning in Fairburn at 650 Birkdale Drive. It's reported that the defendant came home from work at about 3 in the morning and was upset. He and his wife, the victim, Kendra Lane, argued, I think, about infidelity based on my reading of the documents. The victim was asleep in the guest bedroom, and I believe that's what started the discussion. She reported that the defendant came in and grabbed her by her legs and pulled her off the bed and then got on top of her physically. He admitted holding her down by her wrists. The victim reported that she scratched and bit the defendant to try to get him off of her, and that she was afraid. The defendant, based on his admissions, and then the statements by both of the individuals, was determined to be the primary aggressor, and he was arrested. He did have scratches on his chest that the victim reported she had scratched him to try to get him off of her. He did have that conditional discharge for felony terroristic threats in 1995, and a battery and hindering 911 was dismissed in Paulding County, Your Honor. We haven't had a chance to get in touch with Ms. Lane. We left her messages today, but have not been successful yet. We'll continue our efforts. Based on the facts here, we are asking for a $2,000 surety, no contact with Kendra Lane, stay away from the location. Again, that's 650 Burkdale Drive in Fairburn, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Mr. McLean, Ms. Cook.
Sorry, Your Honor, I was muted there. Sorry. Your Honor, my 51-year-old client has a bachelor's in criminal justice from Georgia State University. He is post-certified and working as a police officer. We will avoid addressing disagreements point because it's not the trial and it's just the bond hearing. So we would ask the court, given the arrest history, given the facts as alleged, we'd ask the court to consider a signature bond. At this time, he can live elsewhere if the court would like him to do that.
Okay, for the battery, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the simple battery, a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Stay away from the Burkdale Drive address. No further contact with Ms. Lane. He can go back to that address if necessary on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Good luck to you, Mr. Lane. You're welcome. Client has a question, Mr. McLean.
Your Honor, I can have the courtroom call me and mute my Zoom microphone to answer his question.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Just call me at 2215.
Are we ready to go back to position number 5, Mr. Walker in Union City?
We're still here. Union City still here.
Have you documents, Mr. McLean?
I've received them. I'm about to print them out. The printer's across the hall. I have received the documents and I've hit print. Go to the machine, print again.
Are you going to need to talk with him? I take it you're going to need to talk with him at Union City.
No, Your Honor. We've already fully discussed.
Okay, all right.
Are we free to leave, Your Honor?
No. He wants to take a plea this afternoon, so I've got to get that accomplished as soon as
Okay,
Mr.
yes,
McLean
sir. We'll be
completes the
standing by.
case. Okay, thank you.
Let's do position number 11. He's a waiver, Mr. Roy Keith.
Okay.
And Your Honor, on 2 positions, including Mr. Keith, and I think Mr. Thomas, I sent to Your Honor and Ms. Bridgewater and to Ms. Allen the waiver form itself.
Okay, thank you. So position 11, Roy Keith, charged in case 24 CR 007917A with loitering and prowling. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
This is Keith Roy, 46, on probation, entering auto, financial transaction. Okay, we just left it at that. Another entering auto. 2024 probation, 2017 breaking, entering conviction, possession of stolen goods conviction, 2016 breaking and entering conviction, 2016 assault on female conviction, homeless. That's it.
Your Honor, this is an incident from yesterday, the 2nd of December at about 5:40 in the morning on Georgia Tech property. So this is the 11th Street intersection with Atlantic Drive. In a parking area, the defendant was seen pulling on door handles of vehicles and looking into vehicles. A 911 call was made about a suspicious person seen pulling on door handles. Police responded, saw an individual matching the description located nearby at Home Park. He was recognized as someone who'd been previously arrested for entering auto. He actually just pled on October the 22nd, 2024 to entering auto felony. And that was at Georgia Tech, Your Honor, as well, from earlier this year. The individual who called 911 did a show up and identified the defendant as the individual she saw trying to open car doors. He's charged with loitering. We're asking for a $4,000 surety, Your Honor. Stay away from all Georgia Tech campus locations and specifically the 11th Street and Atlantic Drive intersection. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while in bond.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my 52 years old. He is a high school graduate. He's been in Georgia for 3 years. He could probably get his mail. I asked him what shelter would be appropriate, and he said Gateway. Absolutely Gateway. Now, he does have an out-of-state bunch of relatives who could watch his mail closely, but I don't want to make him sound like he's an out-of-state person now. He's been a proud Georgian for 3 years, but we definitely need to change some patterns here. So, Your Honor, he's been a Golden Corral employee for 6 years in his former state and here in Georgia, working at a BP gas station in the Midtown area as an employee, helping around in any way the gas station needed help. So he is quite industrious, and we'd ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible.
Okay. A social worker visit to assist with housing, stay away from Georgia Tech. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
How much was that?
$100 good bond.
Hey, Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Lane wants to know that if, because it's possible that you can address this case again because he said that he needed his weapon to conduct his job.
Yeah, I've got to. What I need to do is mute here as soon as we can, and just have him call me on the desk phone.
Last but not least, Thomas. It's the position. Is a waiver.
Mr. Thomas was charged in case 24 CR 007918J with loitering and prowling, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
11 on probation in Bucks County, sale of marijuana. 2024 probation. 2020 battery DV conviction. Another 2020 battery DV conviction. That's it.
Alan?
Your Honor, this is an incident from yesterday, the 2nd of December at about 9:30 in the morning. Police were dispatched to the parking deck at 759 Atlanta Student Movement Boulevard. It was reported that there was a suspicious, male at the location wearing a yellow safety or security vest and pretending he was an employee of the school. Demanding parking money from students and faculty. So police made contact with the defendant. He was asked for his ID. He wasn't very cooperative, but eventually gave the correct information. He fled from officers. He was still wearing the safety vest, pretending he was an employee. He admitted that he had come and done this previously in the past. He turned directional signs around and sat in the attendant booth there. The charges are based on refusing to follow verbal commands and stay where he was, being where he is not supposed to be, and alarming people who are used to being able to park without having to pay and were not aware of this person and actually not being employed by the university. I reached out and spoke to Clark Atlanta Police today because he originally came in with a theft by deception, and they don't have a victim name for anybody who he actually got money from. But they did report that he'd been there before, he had made these admissions, and that he'd put himself in the booth there at the location. So we're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, to stay away from all Clark at Atlanta University property. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McLean.
Your Honor, my client 7, he has a stable address at McDaniel Street with a 4-digit unit number. So he gets good mail service, he tells me. I've got 2 good phone numbers, including his brother, so he shouldn't miss court. Your Honor, he once upon a time was an employee there, but that was at the cafeteria. Did that for a couple of years. He also more recently worked at UPS for 3 years, Your Honor. Well, we'd ask the court to consider as low bond as possible, including the possibility of a signature bond if that's in the realm of possibility.
Okay, it'll be $100 good bond per charge, makes for a total of a $300 good bond. Stay away from Clark Atlanta properties, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Okay, so I think that you have 2 issues that you need to deal with, Mr. McLean.
If they don't mind, I'll call and grab that paperwork off the printer first, and back to the desk and answer Mr. Lane's question.
Okay. Court will be in recess until Mr. McLean returns.
Holly,
Yes,
what was the contact for number 5?
number 5, it was no further contact.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You ready, McLean?
Okay, I've got some the mail thing, the printing didn't work, so I just grabbed an old form, which is a good form. Now, our accusation number, I believe I have a copy of the LaRon Walker thing, 24 CR.
Do you need the number, Mr. McLean?
No, I've got it. I'm just knocking stuff over on my desk. All right, 24 CR 00 7907F. Willful obstruction of
Your Honor, in the meantime, I've sent orders if you want to go ahead with those.
Thank you.
Now we go over the calendar.
I was waiting for Mr. McLean to go over the calendar so that he'd be privy to note what his at his clients. So if we can just wait for Mr. McLean.
Okay, I've got the plea sheet, I've got the plea statement, and I'll go ahead and scan that, email it to myself, and forward it to all of y'all.
Very good. Are we ready to take the
Let
plea,
me
Mr.
turn my
McLean?
volume back up again, apparently. Oh, it's got that little speaker with the. Okay, I can hear y'all now.
Okay, are you ready to take the plea?
Yes, Your Honor, if you don't need to be looking at the paperwork while we do it, it's just the standard plea paperwork.
Okay, no, I'm fine.
We're ready.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Walker, you've been charged in case 24 CR 007907F with willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. So anything more that you wanted to put on the record, Ms. Allen?
No, Your Honor. He initially came in with a count of misdemeanor escape. We did a dismissal of that charge. If it was an escape, it wasn't a completed escape, and it was duplicative, so obstruction made more sense.
Okay, and it's my. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If council would stipulate to the facts that we discussed previously, this is the incident from July 2023 where the defendant jumped out of a transfer van from the jail to Grady and was apprehended shortly thereafter down the street. We would accept a plea to time served, Your Honor, and close the case out.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. McLean?
Nothing, we do so stipulate, Your Honor, as those facts, and we have nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Walker, it's my understanding, can you raise your right hand for me, sir? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down. Thank you, Mr. Walker. It's my understanding that in case 24 CR 007907F, you wish to plead guilty to willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol at the present time?
Nope.
You've been represented by counsel. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes.
You understand that you have a right to a trial by jury on this charge, and that by pleading guilty to it, you're giving up your right to a trial by jury?
Yes.
Has anyone forced or coerced you to plead guilty?
Nope.
I'll accept the plea as negotiated, Mr. Walker. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you,
Your Honor,
Judge.
All right, thank you all. We'll see you next time, South Annex. Yes,
Honor,
Mr. McLean.
should we go into a breakout room of some kind with Your Honor and myself and Ms. Allen about Mr. Lane's question?
That's fine with the court, Ms. Allen. So if we can, are you with me, Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Thank you.
Holly, I'm about to come and see you. I'll be right back.
Okay, also with that order, can someone send it to me or send it to the judge so that I can get the signature? I think I know about that breakout and they want to get the paperwork. So can you all, somebody send it to me so I can give the judge to put his signature on it?
You're talking about the plea thing?
For Lane, yes.
Yeah, if you'll hold on just a second.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, what you say, Ms. McLean?
It won't take me a second to run across the hall and hit scan.
Thank you.
Okay.
I need to wait till he come back before I put y'all in the breakout room.
Well, Mr. McLean gone now.
We had one of these days at the SAP calendar this morning too.
Oh, boy. Sorry.
Being cursed.
Now all we have to do is wait for our computer system to make a noise on my email so I can.
Ready to go in the breakout room?
Ready for the breakout.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Bridgewater, I think that we're ready to go over the calendar now, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be December the 17th. Position number 1 is a total of a $200 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 2 is going to the SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 3 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $200 good bond. 4, SAP calendar with a $100 good bond. 5, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 6 is reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 7 is going to the SAP calendar with a $100 good bond. 8, SAP calendar with a total $200 good bond. 9 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 10 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 11 is going to the SAP calendar with a $100 good bond. 12, SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 13, SAP calendar with a total $300 good bond. 14, SAP calendar with a $4,000 good bond. 15 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $2,000 good bond. Add-on 1 is reset further notice with a total $3,000 SOB through pretrial. 2 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. 3 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through the jail. Position 4 is reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through pretrial with the co-signer of Leland Roan. 5 took a time served plea, and 6, Aubriana Gaston is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I just received that from Mr. McLean, so I'm getting ready to forward it to you.
He forwarded it to me already, Ms. Bridgewater, so I'll just send it, I'll sign it and send it back to you, okay? So
Awesome. Thank you.
all right, y'all have a good rest of your night. I'll see y'all
You
next time.
too. Stay warm.